This is the Brewers POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Milwaukee Brewers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
At one point, our Milwaukee Brewers started the season 0-4, and with injuries piling up, things looked bleak, but boy, have they turned it around, including today, completing a perfect homestand at American Family Field, beating the Washington Nationals this afternoon by a final score of 8-1, completing the 3-game sweep as well of the Nationals. Before that, a 3-game sweep of the Dodgers as they get set for a little bit of a break here as the All-Star festivities begin to pick up later on in the coming week. Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Locked On Brewers POSTCAST. My name is Brandon Snide. You can follow me on X at Brandon_Snide and follow all of my work over at WTMJ.com, where we cover all of your Wisconsin sports teams. As always, thank you for making Locked On Brewers part of your day each and every day. Remember, you can follow the Locked On Brewers podcast wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify. You can get this very program in audio form, as well as my guy Chuck Freeman on the Locked On Brewers daily podcast. And then if you go over on YouTube, you can get everything, all of our videos, all of our reactions. Go to the search bar, type in Locked On Brewers, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit that thumbs up on the videos, get notified when we go live as we break down another Milwaukee Brewers win. The ace, Freddy Peralta, getting the job done, taking a no-hitter into the 6th inning. We'll talk a little bit about Freddy Peralta. A big weekend in general. We did not have a show on Saturday, so we'll touch base a little bit on what happened on Saturday. But the 8th inning for the Brewers kind of turned to be the, really the turning point, I guess, was kind of the game was in hand anyway, but the 8th inning was pretty big for the Brewers offensively, where they piled on a handful of runs and a franchise record for most wins at the All-Star break for your Milwaukee Brewers. And it's interesting because the Brewers, if you go all the way back almost exactly 2 months to this very date, it's July 13th. So if you go all the way back to May 17th, and we were having shows at this point in time, and there were concerns, there were worries, there were frustrations, there were definitely question marks around this Milwaukee Brewers team, from the manager level to the player level to the front office level. They were 21-25 on the season on May 17th, and they got shut out for the 4th time in 5 games after that loss. And since then, they have simply just turned around their season. 35-15 since that mark, one of the best in baseball. We talked about how great they were in June, and they're starting July off pretty darn well with an 8-1, completing the perfect homestand for your Milwaukee Brewers, sweeping the Dodgers and sweeping the Nationals. I mentioned the Brewers winning 8-1. We'll talk about that. Our scoring summary today brought to you by Gametime. The 2nd inning, a couple of singles from Anthony Siegler and Sal Frelick would get a few runs across the board. That would give the Brewers and Freddy Peralta a 3-run advantage. And that would take us all the way to the 7th inning. And Freddy Peralta today, absolutely fantastic. He is now tied in Major League Baseball with 11 wins. We talked about prior to Jacob Misiorowski's, recent success in the Major League level. I know Logan Henderson was up here before, and he kind of set a record prior to Jacob Misiorowski getting up here. And Jose Quintana has kind of been that steady veteran presence, within the starting pitching rotation. But Freddy Peralta I don't think there's any question, as great as Jacob Misiorowski is and has been and will be, as great as Jose Quintana has been for the Milwaukee Brewers, as great as Brandon Woodruff is, and he was good on Saturday as well with a double-digit strikeouts in 4 2/3 innings. He was great on Saturday as well. I don't think anybody is going to question that Freddy Peralta is the leader in this rotation. 11-4 for Freddy, 6 2/3 innings pitched today. And without further ado, when you take a no-hitter into the 6th inning, I think the player of the game, you solidified your stance where that comes from.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
2/3, as we had mentioned, just 3 hits. The only run he surrendered was a flare out to right field that eventually would get him chased out of that 7th inning, but he was really, really close to finishing that 7th inning this afternoon at American Family Field. We mentioned the 11 wins, tied in Major League Baseball for wins. He has just been everything and more that this Brewers team has needed. And it's so easy to root for Freddie. I remember Freddie's first start in Colorado, 2018, off the top of my head. I think it was 2018. And I just remember, from there and all the pitchers that have come with Freddie and in between Freddie and the Woodies and the Burns and, and just the steady presence that he continues to bring every year in and year out. And it stands true to this very day. 6 2/3 innings pitched, just the 1 earned run, 7 strikeouts, 103 total pitches on the afternoon for Freddie. His control has been so much better. He's avoiding those deep counts early on, and as at least his last few starts. And that's been key for his success, as he now is tied for the major league leader in wins. Freddy Peralta, 6 2/3. He gets your player of the game. The 8th inning, though, for the Milwaukee Brewers in this one, I mentioned they were up 3-1 in the going into the 8th inning. Probably had the game in hand, especially when you look at the Brewers bullpen. And I know my guy Abner Uribe had a hiccup on Saturday. We're not going to necessarily dive into that on the show because that doesn't meet the angle I want to talk about when it comes to Abner Uribe. I'm joking, but I know he did gave up a home run on Saturday. But the 8th inning today, with the Brewers still leading 3-1, when you score 5 runs in the 8th inning, I don't think it's any question that's your turning point. In an 8-1 Brewers win.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
All right, so Jackson Chourio, a home run to right center, 425 feet. Jackson Chourio, don't look now, and you really start to look at, man, the All-Star break maybe at the wrong time for the Brewers this time around. Another home run for Jackson Chourio. He is starting to get hot at the plate for your Milwaukee Brewers. That was a 3-run home run from Jackson Chourio. Bryce Terrain with a solo home run to center field. If you could get Bryce Terrain going in the second half, we talked about how important William Contreras is for this team, but if you could get Bryce Terrain at the same time, get him going with William Contreras, who, by the way, William Contreras, once again, 2 for 5 today. So William Contreras, a great opportunity for him to get some rest too with that finger for this week in the All-Star break. The Brewers not picking things up for 5.5 days with a day game today. So some time to get some rest for William Contreras. And then Collins would also walk in a run, and the Brewers would tally 8 for the day, an 8-1 win, 56-40 on the season. I mentioned on Friday's show that there was a chance that this team could go into the All-Star break with the lead in the National League Central. The Cubs on Friday night, it's the last time we had a live broadcast, had lost to the Yankees 11-1, but you got to give credit where credit's due. The Cubs keep on winning. At the same time, the Brewers, they're maintaining pace with the Brewers. They do win 2 out of 3 against New York in the Big Apple, and thus going into the break with a 1-game lead on the Brewers in the National League Central. But if you would ask myself, if you would ask probably yourself and any Brewers fan out there, at the beginning of the year, we mentioned the 0-4. We mentioned at one point how great Freddie's been. At one point, he was your only healthy starting pitching in the rotation. Things just didn't look good. You got blown out, in that series against the Yankees when the Torpedo Bats made their surgence into the Major League Baseball. And then we mentioned coming home when the Brewers got routed against the Royals to open up the season at American Family Field. You go all the way back to then, and you tell me or any Brewers fan or yourself and say you'd be 1 game back in the National League Central. Despite all of that, despite being 21-25 in the middle part of May going into Labor Day a week after that, Memorial Day, I think a lot of Brewers fans would have signed their name on the dotted line saying, I will absolutely, without a doubt, take a 1-game, chance with the Cubs in the second half, trailing 1 game going into the second half of the season over where they were. An absolute turnaround for your Milwaukee Brewers. They complete the sweep of the Washington Nationals, winning 8-1 today. And don't forget, sweeping the Dodgers before this series with an off day in between there on Thursday. Just an absolutely fantastic performance all weekend from your Milwaukee Brewers. And I would be remiss if I did not mention, and I know it is Sunday, and I know the Brewers won 8-1 today, but that game on Saturday, I was watching it, had a couple of family events this weekend. I was watching it, and I was just kicking myself because, boy, it would have been such a great chance to talk about this Brewers team with Andrew Vaughn. Man, it's hard not to get giddy when you talk about him in RBI in every game he's played in a Brewers uniform. Every game. Now, I will make the argument that today I'm not going to complain too much, but I would, again, would have rolled out Andrew Vaughn at first base. I know it's the lefty-righty thing for the Brewers, but I still would have rolled out Andrew Vaughn today. He has just been so much fun to watch. And third pick overall in 2019, the talent is there for Andrew Vaughn. He just needed an opportunity and a much more successful, a much more consistent franchise, and that's exactly what he's gotten here in Milwaukee. It's been fantastic to watch. I'm happy as a fan because he's helping my team win games and be successful, and the Brewers have not lost since they've called Andrew Vaughn up to Milwaukee when he set the tone. You go back to Monday, almost a week ago, Andrew Vaughn with that 3-pointer in the Brewers bullpen to begin that Dodger series in the first inning, and that has really got this team going offensively from that point, in this homestand for your Brewers. And every single game, I mean, you talk about tying the game in the 9th inning against the Dodgers in Game 3. You talk about Saturday, putting the ball in play, bringing home 2 runs to tie the game in the bottom of the 9th against the Nationals. And then Caleb Durbin, man, we have been pounding our fist on the table for that bottom of the order all season long. It feels like, to come alive and produce and be productive and give the Brewers some offensive juice. Not every, obviously you want it to be consistent. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to go, 3 for 4 every game, but, since really the middle of May, when you look at where this Brewers record has kind of turned around, as we had talked about May 17th, where they were 21-25, really since that last week in May or so, Caleb Durbin has been fantastic for our Milwaukee Brewers. And you look at Saturday as a clutch opportunity and a clutch a hit for Caleb Durbin to walk it off, as the Brewers would beat the Nationals 6-5 to continue the win streak. And then today, the cherry on top with the 8-1 win. Freddy Peralta pitching a gem. Jackson Chourio with a 3-run blast. Bryce Terrain with a 3-run blast. Now, there is some downside to the game today. Now, it was an 8-1 win. The Brewers did complete the perfect homestand, a 7-game win streak now for your Brewers heading into the All-Star break. We had mentioned the franchise record on wins at the All-Star break, but it wasn't all great today. So we'll talk about that and your thoughts and your reactions on the program welcomed as well. Coming up right after this. Today's Locked On Brewers postcast is brought to you by Gametime. We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for those concert tickets to go on sale. Only lose your spot to a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping, and that is where Gametime comes in. Getting those concert tickets, getting those Brewer tickets in the second half of the season now become faster and easier than ever, and prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime. You can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. Take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets and Brewer tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app today, create an account, and use this code. In the second half, you can go see the Brewers for almost free if you use the code LOCKEDONMLB. Locked on, LOCKEDONMLB, and you get $20 off of your first purchase. Again, terms do apply. Again, go to Gametime, create an account, download the app, redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download that app today. It's Gametime last-minute tickets. Lowest price guaranteed. One more time, that is Gametime. An impressive double sweep for your Milwaukee Brewers at American Family Field. An 8-1 win over those Washington Nationals. The Brewers heading into the break 33-17 at American Family Field. They have really turned it on at home, and overall, the win-loss record, 56-40, 16 games now over 500. We have mentioned it before. You go back, you kind of bookmark that May 17th series after the Brewers just couldn't get anything going offensively. Nothing was really clicking for this team. 21-25 back on May 17th. They were shut out for the 4th time in 5 games, and since then, they have been one of the best teams in all of baseball. 35-15 since that mark, one of the best records in June as well. And you talk about a hot start in the month of July. Boy, the Brewers have really, really turned things up. We've mentioned Freddy Peralta, tied for the major league leaders in wins, 11-4 at the break, 7 straight wins for your Brewers. Jackson Chourio's bat is starting to come alive. William Contreras with a couple of hits today, starting to come alive. There is one downside to today's game, and you hope it's nothing serious for the Brewers, and that is Sal Frelick as a sliding catch in foul territory in right field would end up exiting the game with what the Brewers labeled as hamstring soreness, tightness, discomfort. So we'll see exactly what that happens. He is getting an MRI, according to manager Pat Murphy. So we'll see exactly what happens with that injury. But it does seem that the next few days for Sal Frelick and the Brewers is going to be coming at a good time. You hate to see it for Sal because Sal's season has been fantastic. I mentioned I thought, he had made a case to be an all-star. He has been absolutely fantastic. He has found his home in the leadoff spot for your Milwaukee Brewers. He's one of the best right fielders in all of baseball, and you just hope going forward for Sal, it's nothing serious, and we'll know more after an MRI. He knew it right away watching the replay when he made that slide. As soon as he caught the ball and got to one knee, you could see the discomfort in his face. So Sal Frelick, we'll see what he says, what the MRI says. Is Pat Murphy after the game saying, quote, "It hurts my heart." He said seeing one of his favorite players being removed from the game. So prayers up for Sal. Hopefully it's nothing too serious. We'll probably know here shortly, either tonight or tomorrow, and certainly throughout the course of the week. But it could be one of those things where it ends up on, hopefully, if it's nothing serious, on the short-term injury list, and we'll get him back quicker, sooner rather than later, because Sal has been huge in the surgence for this Milwaukee Brewers team. I should say resurgence for this Milwaukee Brewers team after that May 17th game. Your thoughts, your reactions, always welcomed on the program. An 8-1 Milwaukee Brewers win over the Washington Nationals. We begin with our everydayer Nick. Brandon, let's go for the double sweep. Do we dare to dream of a sweep in LA? It'd be epic if the crew could Freddy and Churio are my favorite players of the game. So those are your players of the game. Freddy Peralta and Jackson Churio. Yeah, Jackson Churio, again, with the 3-run home run in the 8th. The only reason I give it to Freddy is because the only reason I give it to Freddy is because when Jackson Churio hit that home run in the 8th, the Brewers were going to win the game, in my opinion, regardless of what the Brewers did in the 8th inning. Now they score 5 runs. We mentioned the 3-run bomb from Churio, the solo shot for Bryce Tran, and then the Washington Nationals would walk in a run. But I do think, for me, it goes to Freddie. We talked about it for a number of reasons. He's just been so good all year, and it's been now expected of Freddie to go out there and pitch, and the way that he has. And he's had moments throughout this season where the pitch count has gotten real high. The control is kind of all over the place, but he has found a way in even when those games where his stuff's not on, the top of where he wants it to be, he still finds a way to get it done. And that's the definition of a pitching ace, and that's why I've labeled him for your Milwaukee Brewers the ace of that rotation. And I know Jacob Misiorowski is going to the All-Star game in 5 games, and there's a lot of chatter about Jacob Misiorowski and the issues that a lot of other major league players have because of that. But Jacob Misiorowski's hat's in Cooperstown in the first week of his regular season, debut in Major League Baseball. So there's a good reason that Jacob Misiorowski is going to the All-Star game. Don't care what anybody in Philadelphia has to say. Don't care what anybody in Arizona or whoever has to say. Jacob Misiorowski absolutely deserves to go to the All-Star game. Yeah, first off, he's been the most electric pitcher in baseball in the first half, and he's been here for only a handful of weeks. And he has become must-see TV, right? Jacob Misiorowski, my kids are asking about him. Friends are asking about him. Coworkers that aren't necessarily glued to every pitch like I am are asking about Jacob Misiorowski. When is he going to pitch? Bars in Milwaukee on a Wednesday afternoon against Paul Skeens are selling out or filling up. Jacob Misiorowski deserves to go to the All-Star game. And I don't care what anybody has to say about it. Certainly those in Philly do not care. Jacob Misiorowski, I'm glad to see him go there. I'm glad to see him have this early success. Let's continue to build on it in the second half. As I don't know how we got off to a tangent about Jacob Misiorowski in the All-Star game, talking about Freddy Peralta, but nonetheless, that Freddy would get my player of the game for this one, because I think at that point the Brewers had the game in, kind of locked down with the score even as what it was, 3-1. And again, 6 2/3. He took a no-hitter into that 8th inning, and the Brewers, again, just continue to find ways to win. Today was an offensive game and a pitching game. we had talked about, Pat Murphy had talked about, all the stars haven't aligned, is the term and the phrase that he uses. And it seems like not necessarily have gotten there yet, right? Like today you could look at it, right? Freddy Peralta goes 6 2/3. The Brewers get a couple of home runs. They get some key hits early in this game. They take advantage of those opportunities, and those stars kind of align, but it hasn't been consistently for this Milwaukee Brewers team. It hasn't been, every single game, or at least at a consistent, steady pace. And they're 56-40. And that's why it's hard not to look at this team and just be like, man, this just feels like the things, there's been times where the Brewers start off really hot, right? They start April really hot and May really hot and kind of trend towards the, downward, era, with the, going into the All-Star break. And then they come back out of the All-Star break and get really hot and kind of fizzle out a little bit in September, then kind of pick things up. It's kind of, a peaks and valleys type thing. But it feels like for this team, really, it started awful, 0-4. And then you have a plethora of injuries, and then you keep putting yourself in this proverbial hole that we have mentioned for. We talked about that May 17th loss. There were 21-25 on the season, and we had multiple fans on the show asking are they going to be sellers? And from that point forward, have turned it around and now are the hottest team in baseball going to the All-Star break. You almost hate to see the All-Star break at this point, but as we had mentioned, with the finger injury to William Contreras, the now hamstring injury to Sal Frelick, maybe it's at a good time for your Milwaukee Brewers as they beat the Nationals today to complete a perfect homestand. 8-1, 6-0 on this homestand at American Family Field. Way to go, Brew Crew fans. 33,000 minimum attendance all 6 games this week. How about that quote? Smallest market in MLB. Yeah, it's, and that's the thing with this Brewers team. And that's why when you look at ownership, if you're a fan, certainly like myself, you look at this ownership and you're like, this is one of the most loyal fan bases in baseball, right? Like we're there. We had the Arctic tailgate for so many years. Like we're out there tailgating hours. Brandon Woodruff had talked about that coming into the stadium on Saturday. Fans were already tailgating hours and hours before first pitch. That's nothing new. If you're a Brewers fan, that's absolutely nothing new. That's what we do. And that was when a lot of the frustration, certainly with fans, is when you look at the ownership and you're like, we are here. We are ready to go all in. We have the pitching staff. We have all the stars are aligned. We talked about the stars that Pat Murphy had talked about. All the stars for us are aligned. You got the pitchers, you got the defense, you got the leaders, you got you got the speed on this team. You just need a bat or two. And Matt Arnold goes out there and takes a disgruntled Aaron Savale and tosses him out to the White Sox, dangles in front of him, and gets back the third overall pick in the 2019 draft and has absolutely flourished since he got to Milwaukee. Now, will that be the only move for the Milwaukee Brewers, as Steven over on YouTube says, trade for Suarez? I understand where that, and that's been a name that has been thrown on this show almost every day. I think every show we've done, and I totally understand it. Thank you, Steven, for always making Locked On Brewers part of your day, because that would be ideal, right? If the Brewers go out and make a big trade for a bat, a position of need, maybe they can move some guys around. I know the shortstop position is something to be questioned about, but it's almost to the point right now where if I'm Matt Arnold, he's maybe in a tough spot right now, right? And it's you want to make a move. You have a plethora of pitching. But again, we saw what happened earlier in the year with this Brewers team. So do you have a plethora of pitching, or is it more of an insurance policy going forward? If one of those two of those guys go down, you have an opportunity to have somebody right there. But you don't want to mess anything up if you're Matt Arnold. And I'm taking a trip inside the brain of one of the best in the biz in Matt Arnold. I don't know if I'd want to mess anything up right now. Maybe see what this team looks like coming out of the All-Star break. They start the season. They start the second half of the season out there at Dodger Stadium. Quinn Priester, Freddy Peralta, Jose Quintana, all expected to get the start in LA. You still have some time. Matt Arnold had talked about on television broadcast a few days ago. This is his favorite time of the year with the draft taking place, as well as the All-Star break, as well as the trade deadline slowly approaching for your Milwaukee Brewers. But the question I want to end this show with is I want to ask all of you, if you are in charge of the Brewers, you are taking Matt Arnold's job to the trade deadline. Do you go out and make a move? Do you trade a guy or two for a bat, knowing what it did to that clubhouse when he traded away Josh Hader. Now it worked out for the Brewers. So hands up. I agree. It worked out for the Brewers. They eventually netted William Contreras. I'd make that trade every day that ends in Y. But right now, hottest team in baseball, 7 straight, 8 out of their last 9, 56-40, a franchise record at the All-Star break. Do you dare to mess any mojo up in that clubhouse with the trade? That's what I want to end the show on, because we pick things back up 5 days from now, 6 days from now. I don't know what it is, 5, 6 days, 5.5 days, whatever it is, as the Brewers will take a little bit of a break, as will we, with the All-Star festivities getting set to kick off, and with the Brewers out in Los Angeles to begin the second half of the season. It should be a great one. First half of Major League Baseball is all complete. My thanks to each and every one of you for always tuning in and always making Locked On Brewers part of your day. Remember, wherever you get podcasts, you can get this very podcast as well, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on Google Podcasts, wherever you get podcasts, you can get the Locked On Brewers postcast, as well as my guy Chuck Freeman on the Locked On Daily Brewers podcast. And check us all out and go on YouTube. Type in that search bar, Locked On Brewers. Get notified when we go live. Hit that little bell. Get notified. Hit that subscribe button. Please hit that subscribe button. Hit the thumbs up on our videos. Drop a comment. Drop a thought. We read them all. We'll catch everything up on Friday, as the Brewers will take on the Dodgers to begin things in a test for your Brewers right out of the gate. As always, win, lose, or draw, it is always certainly feels better after a 6-game perfect homestand, and now 7 straight for your Milwaukee Brewers. But win, lose, or draw, it is always go Brewers. Have a good one, everyone. Thank you.